Very rarely do I get a guest on my show from a product that not only do I use, but I love the hell out of. I would like to welcome to Neuma today, Jim Poole, the CEO, visionary, and mastermind of one of the coolest products that I know. And I don't want to steal anything because we were just talking. NuCalm is a company that I don't even know how to describe this, Jim. So I'll let you do it. But I want to just say, not only am I a fan, but I am an evangelist, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word. So welcome to Neuma, Jim Poole.
Well, thank you very much. It's a nice intro and always nice to visit with someone who loves what we're doing. We don't meet, I'll be honest with you, Alan, we don't meet a lot of people who don't like what we're doing.
So I'm not special. I got it.
Well, no, you are special, but we don't meet a lot of people who don't like what we're doing. But it's always nice to spend time with someone who's intellectually curious, ambitious, wants to be a better human being, is interested in seeking methods and techniques and products to advance that level of consciousness and humanity. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So how do you describe it? So I try to describe this to people all the time. And I've got a lot of users to you, but I still don't have the explanation down right. So explain to me how I should be explaining to somebody what NuCalm really is.
Let's do we'll do a 90-second version and a 60-second version. So 90-second version is, since the dawn of humankind, since we were knuckle dragging in caves, humans have either discovered or created ways to change their mental state. Yes. And I suspect that most of us aren't even aware of this. But today, in our contemporary society, if we're feeling mentally lethargic and just need a kicker, we'll go with espresso, Red Bull, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, 5-Hour Energy, Monster Energy drink, multi-billion-dollar accelerated drink market. If we're feeling in psychic pain, many people find themselves seeking solace in alcohol and recreational drug abuse. Changes your frequency. If you're feeling anxious, you'll take an anti-anxiety pill. If you're feeling depressed, you'll take an antidepressant. If you're having trouble sleeping, you'll take a sleeping pill. Wow. Humans, shouldn't we be able to regulate our own brainwave and our own state? Well, if we don't even know what that means, it's really hard to find a path to do it. So this is all changing with the invention of NuCalm. NuCalm is a way to safely and predictably guide your brainwave frequency up or down so we can change your state. Now, there are two ways to change the state of a human brainwave. One is visual entrainment, so frequency following response, made famous by Sigmund Freud in the pocket watch. But about 35% of the human population can avoid that hypnotic state. And the other way is auditory. So we have software underneath music. We use your ears as a carrier to present your brain with a signal and a pattern, and your brain synchronizes to that pattern, and you either select your brainwave to slow down into relaxation and sleep, or you go up into focus or up into an amplified state of performance. So that is what we do. That's the longer version. The shorter version is we can change your mental state by changing your brainwave frequency using physics and patented algorithms that line a software bed underneath music. Using your ears as a carrier to present it with a signal, your brain synchronizes to that pattern. And we can take you down to the deepest levels of sleep, which is 0.5 hertz. We can take you to healing at theta. We can take you to creativity at alpha. We can take you to focus at 18.4 hertz, or we can take you all the way up to 41 hertz where you're running around the block at a high rate of speed and you don't even know what you're doing or why you're doing it, but you feel amazing. So that's what we do.
You're describing my 5 a.m. walking into the gym in my house. So
Perfect.
I think in our very first conversation we had, you were telling me you were recommending Focus 20 when I woke up, did it, and it got me through like an extra hour of sleep, like without actually having to sleep.
Yes.
And then I would change it over to Ignite. So I would run around with like getting ready for the gym. But yeah, so as you're talking about this, a lot of what I'm fascinated with and what I love is the name of my show is The Crossroad of Science and Enlightenment. I'm fascinated by science and neuroscience and what some people would call woo-woo. Because what you're describing what you're describing is frequency. And
Yes.
that's woo-woo. Like, but again, I think about that because Einstein said everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. To match the frequency of the reality you want, you cannot help but get that reality. I mean, that was Einstein. So
Nikola Tesla said, if you can master alpha brainwave function, you master the universe. 7.83 hertz is the Earth's magnetic rotation and the frequency of the Earth. It's also the frequency of the human body cavity. It's all related to math. Because we think it's woo-woo just means that we don't understand it.
I understand it.
Not there.
So walk me through these brain waves, because when I started in my journey of trying to figure out healing, I did learn that there were frequencies, things that I don't think the average person really realizes. So when you're kind of talking about like alpha and beta and theta and gamma, what are those? How do I explain those?
So on a radio dial, I'll age us because the contemporary kids don't do a radio dial.
My 8 and 10-year-old wouldn't. Yeah, they'd have no idea.
To the left was classical and slower stuff, and to the right was heavy metal and bang your head and hard rock. So one thing that I like about this is, people can think about this as woo-woo. Nikola Tesla wrote a letter to his mother before he passed, and he and George Joukowsky were both inventing physics and quantum physics and electromedicine in the 1930s and 40s in New York City. And he wrote a letter to his mother, and he said, you know what? I've dedicated my life to humanity and received nothing in return but ridicule. So even Nikola Tesla, who we admire and aspire to be like today, was ridiculed 90 years ago. But what I do like about this is that for us, we're a neuroscience company. So very few companies can say, wow, neuroscience, patents, FDA, medical advisors, that's woo-woo. It's not, but they still don't understand what we do. So frequencies, here's what I like about it. We all operate in the same operating system. Imagine that. 8.4 billion people have the same operating system. The human brain oscillates in a frequency range of 41 hertz. So it's a waveform. Hey, delta is the slowest waveform, 0.5 to 4 hertz. And in that state, when our brain is oscillating at that frequency, we are dreamless like deep sleeping. Here's what's cool, Alan. It's not up for debate. We know what the outcome is. So if your frequency is at a certain defined frequency, we know what you're doing. Theta is faster, 4 hertz to 7 hertz. And theta is really important because it's commensurate with what's called the healing zone. We all should become familiar with what that means because that's how we stay alive. That's our resilience. That's our lowering inflammation. That's our longevity. That's also the restorative aspect of the sleep architecture.
So when that's kind of when the dream state, like we're kind of defragmenting.
Yes,
if you will.
It's a lucid dream state. And really what's happening on a cellular level is your cells are doing their cellular maintenance and cleaning out their toxins. Really important, right? Secondarily, the mitochondria and the energy source of the cell structure is being rejuvenated. So this is on a cellular level, the healing piece. But also when you're in that state, typically your heart, your lungs, and your brain are in connection and you're breathing about one breath every 10 seconds. So you're oxygenated in the entire body. Then you go a little faster, 8 hertz to 12 hertz is alpha. And that's synonymous with creativity being the zone and falling into sleep. So of the 5 categories, 3 of them are in sleep. Again, reinforcing the power and the necessity of sleep. Then you get into beta, and beta is the broadest range, and beta is activity. 13 to 15 hertz is you're awake, but you're low functioning and you're not that inspired. 15 to 20 hertz is the learning zone. That's right. There is a learning zone associated with clearing out the distractions in your mind, being able to encode and analyze new information, being able to consolidate to memory. You're learning. 20 to 25 hertz is fear, stress, anxiety, irritability, expectation, overwhelm, distraction. 25 to 30 is a higher level of fear, stress, anxiety, overwhelm, irritability, anger, whatever. 30 to 38, you're beginning to step into the state of no mental acuity, pure fight or flight survival, and a cognitive dissociation. So all of us have been probably in a near-death experience, you'll notice a lot of things happen, but you're cognitively not processing information. You're staying alive. Okay. And then here's one cool nuance of the brain, and there's many. 39 to 41 hertz over the highest level of stress is this sweet spot called gamma. Now, gamma, we're finding in the neuroscience literature, is helping remove or remediate amyloid plaque, neurodegenerative diseases, but it also helps create a high level of mental acuity and clarity. They see gamma brainwaves across the brainwaves of monks, but also it activates your gross motor cortex and your sensory motor rhythm. So for you in the morning, in preparation for your gym workout, you're listening to Ignite, you're getting your body in this peak kind of musculature state of high energy, but you're also clearing your mind. So the human brain, your brain, my brain, and everybody listening, same operating system, 41 hertz. The key is, how do I want to feel? And then how would I regulate my brainwave function to get to that frequency?
Wow. Like, so I'm thinking of a couple of just my own interactions, because I don't think most people even think about sleep as restorative. I know that I was a horrible sleeper. Like, I don't know if it was distractions, all of the things that I would think about during the day. I really didn't have a practice, but I would venture to guess probably most people are that way too. I mean,
87% of the population today, 87%, state they have difficulty falling asleep most of the time to all of the time. So yeah, we're in a crisis, and the crisis and the genesis of the crisis comes from unmitigated stress. We're not managing our stress. And, we don't understand sleep, but we certainly don't understand stress. At least with sleep, you can look at somebody sleeping and say, wow, they're sleeping. When you look at someone who's stressed out, you don't know. Are they stressed? No, you can't see it. So, but there's an incompatibility between stress and sleep. And unless you have obstructive sleep apnea and some type of airway obstruction, the only reason that you're not sleeping well is typically stress modulation. Yeah. So for you have a history of not sleeping well. We could deductively reason that you're high cortisol, high monkey mind, even going into sleep. But we're also, every day there's environmental toxins, there's media, there's blue light, there's food supply that's filled with glutamates and excitatory neurotransmitters. The world seems against us right now when it comes to wanting to mitigate stress and live a peaceful life. In fact, you could argue COVID was the most peaceful time period for the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom thrived. They were like, where are the humans at? You live in Maryland, right? And I was in Delaware, and they were fighting orcas, killer whales along the coast of Delaware.
oh my gosh.
In 100 years. So the animal kingdom was thriving. They're like, this COVID thing is brilliant.
I did not know that. Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah, you can look up and find all these
God.
transient weird spottings of like dolphins here and orcas there. And you're like, wow, the animal kingdom is thriving.
They're like going on vacation.
Yeah, they're like, if you want to think conspiracy, they're probably the ones who created COVID.
Exactly. I thought it came from a monkey in a lab, but it was, yeah.
It was an animal. It was. It was.
So that, I mean, a lot of what you're saying, though, makes a lot of sense, because we're in a mental health crisis right now. And a lot of what you and I have talked about in the past, and really why and how I created Neuma, was out of my own mental health collapse, basically, for lack of a better word. But again, I don't think I ever had anyone educate me on frequencies and being able to put myself into a different state.
No, it's weird. I wouldn't call it a conspiracy, but why we're never educated on how our brain works makes no sense. It's a really important aspect of our life. It's our operating system. It's how we do what we do, right? And so why wouldn't someone tell us about our brain? Why wouldn't we learn about the amygdala and the neuronal circuitry of the primal, reptilian part of our brain, or our prefrontal cortex, or our hippocampus? Or why wouldn't we learn about frequency? It's not by magic. When you drink a cup of coffee, it's not magic. Hey, you're going to think faster. It just increased your frequency. It's not by magic. If you're having a tough day and you're in psychic pain and you're like, wow, I could really use a glass of wine. And you take that first sip, and all of a sudden the weight of the world rolls right off your back. You're like, whoa, it's not magic. Alcohol binding to the GABA receptor site, interrupting the HPA axis and slowing down your biochemistry.
Yeah.
Hey, chill, brother. So it's all frequency modulated. All of our activity, all of our behavior, certain frequency, behavior commensurate with the frequency.
So let's talk about that, because you'd actually said that something about a monk. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I have read the book. So I've read your book. I've been using this for a year and a half. But you had a lot of studies and things that actually alluded back to, you actually tested this same kind of theory with monks, and being able to put people into a very similar state. So kind of like, because when I think about this, and again, I'm thinking of some of my listeners who are like, this is all woo, like this is, but you actually tested this against.
Okay, so let's try to. Condemnation prior to investigation will condemn a man to everlasting ignorance. So let's think about that for a second. So condemn what you're hearing without understanding it and closing off your mind to the possibilities. Well, we're never going to evolve as a human species if that's our thinking. But I like to use fact, not wordplay, to disabuse people of woo-woo. So we're a neuroscience company. What does that mean? We're a brain science company. Your brain is tangible. So we're a science company in the tangible world of brain science. We have 52 medical advisors across the gamut of statistical biophysics, medical hematology, oncology, you name it, we got it. 52 of the world's leading doctors from Harvard, from NASA. People understand medicine, they understand research. We have clinical studies studying stage 4 cancer versus the Chicago Blackhawks, studying clinically depressed people in a hospital, studying clinically anxious people in a hospital. We've gone through the FDA. We're a Class 3 medical device. We went through Health Canada. We went through the military approval process, and we're NSS certified for sport. And then just to add fuel to the fire, we have 2 patents. One patent is system and method to elicit a state change in a human brain. Yeah, we did that. And system and method for balancing and maintaining the health of the human autonomic nervous system, which is a huge part of our everyday physiology. Both patents took us 5 years of research. So we are a heavily left brain neuroscience research-backed company. Do we sound like magic? Of course we do. Do we sound too good to be true? Yes, we do. I'm not an idiot. When I first heard it, I was like, this dude's either on crystal meth or this is from Star Trek. None of this is making sense, literally.
And I'm on psychedelics, so
there you go.
It's totally plausible.
Dr. Holloway was talking in tongues, and I was like, I love this guy's accent. I love what I'm hearing. But I'm only picking up every third word. I don't understand what he's saying. So part of this is, it's in the experience, but this is all built around this precept. And this is where you and I share an intersection. Dr. Holloway had a clinical practice outside of San Antonio, Texas, for more than 40 years. He was one of the world's leading experts in addictive disease management, and he understood neurobiofeedback. He also understood the complexity of the traumatized brain. And there's a few bad things that happen post-trauma. The first bad thing that happens is more esoteric. The central nervous system's primary function is self-preservation and survival. And you have your 5 senses and your intuition to protect you. You also have your amygdala and your fight or flight response. But post-trauma, your central nervous system loses faith in you to protect you from the universe. Secondarily, and probably more damaging, your central nervous system loses faith in the universe as a safe place. This is a big problem. When you look at a PET scan of a brain post-trauma, you'll see diminished blood flow to the hippocampus, prefrontal, and frontal cortex. So you're losing blood flow. So that brain sits in a repeat kind of circular loop of reliving the trauma connected to the physiological response of the trauma. So it's a constant state of hypervigilance. It's a constant state of being on edge, fearful, and this cascades through your daily routine and into your sleep architecture. We're still awake when we're sleeping. What does that mean? We don't sleep like dolphins who sleep 30 seconds on each hemisphere. We're awake in that if you sleep with no ambient noise and there's noise, you wake up. If you sleep with noise and the power goes out and there's no noise, you wake up. Why?
Wake up, yeah.
The central nervous system is protecting you. So this is the platform. And you can see when you understand that kind of baseline, wow, that's a tough way to live. So Dr. Holloway said, listen, in 1990, I began this quest to figure out a different way because back then and still today, conventional therapy dictated that I would give you a narcotic-based pharmaceutical, not to address the root cause, but to suppress the symptoms and suppress the central nervous system. How about if I just dull your brain, Jim? Would you like that? You'll be in less pain, but we won't really know what's going on underneath there. How about we'll
You'll
just
lose your identity, but that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'll sit across from you and you'll see my lips move as we try to engage in cognitive behavioral therapy, but your brain is so wired for fear that you're not listening to anything I'm saying.
So I'm going to give you another one. But wait, Jim, there's more. I'm going to give you another pill for that pill.
So Blake, in his compassion for helping, said, I refuse to do that because the end game, that person will take their life. And that's not acceptable to me. And they're not taking their life because they're a coward. They're not taking their life because they're giving up. They're taking their life because they are so tired of living in this state, which they fully don't understand. They've lost control. It's pure fatigue and exhaustion.
I remember those days because I talk about that a lot on my show, being an abuse survivor. And just there were days I didn't want to live. I was just tired. And yeah, so I completely understand that.
So that was the genesis of this invention. Okay. So Blake, my goodness, was he smart. I never met Einstein. I never met George Lukoski. I never met Nikola Tesla. He'd probably sit at the table and they'd all have a nice conversation. He was that level of intelligence. And he's like, you know what? Understanding the human brain and the operating system and the categories of brainwave function, it appeared to him that if he could bring the human brainwave, yours, mine, and anybody's brain, to 4 hertz and liberate the monkey mind and cortisol and stress, the body knows how to heal itself. You have to extract the brain's fear factor and control matrix and allow the body to do what it needs to do. So if that's the big end game, there are 2 ways, like I said early on, to trick the human brain: visual stimulation or auditory stimulation. So Blake went down a path. It took him 19 years. Think about that. Think about what you were doing 19 years ago. Thinking about what I was doing. I was doing Wall Street work. I don't miss it. 19 years. It's amazing. Trial and error. This guy is really smart. But he was also humble because the brain is so complicated. Anything you do to the brain, it has a compensatory mechanism to it. So you have to go all these layers. So he figured out a methodology to present your brain with a signal using your ears. It's like a Trojan horse. And the music that we compose on top of it is simply a delivery mechanism to create a nice experience for you and I and everybody else. But the whole mechanism of action of NuCalm is to present your brain with this complex pattern and signaling just to gently guide and synchronize your brain up or down. So 19 years of invention with the expressed intent, I will allow you as a human to resolve your complex trauma over time by giving your body and your brain the tools it needs to go back into homeostasis and the balance you haven't felt maybe your whole life. That is how this all started.
19 years. I was on a live show yesterday. We were talking about being an entrepreneur and just the whole concept of failure. I mean, 19 years of doing this, course correcting, failing. I mean, the average person,
Blake was really, really bright. I mean, just freak. But he also had Asperger's. So anybody listening, if you know anybody with Asperger's, one thing you'll know about them, when they get their attention on something, they don't let go.
Dog with the bone.
Dog with the bone. So part of me says, wow, it's unfortunate that he had some, social issues because of the Asperger's, but it's fortunate for humanity that he had the Asperger's because he refused to fail. At one point, even before, the Soviet Union broke down, he moved to Russia to study stimulation devices and try to figure out other ways of absorbing things into the brain. So the man was on a mission. And when I met him, he shared with me conceptually what he had created. It was a very crude form. And literally for 10 weeks, and this is back in my day of doing the Wall Street M&A consulting, we did 10 weeks of diligence and calls. And I looked forward to these calls because I was learning and I liked his passion. I liked his Southern drawl. Being in New York, being a Wall Street banker, I'm like, and then he'd get on the phone and be like, Jim, the brain does this. I mean, wow, this is fascinating. I can't tell you why, Alan, but I just felt compelled to get on a plane and try it before I told him thanks, but no thanks. And that was the beginning of this journey for me. Because once I got down there, I remember I was in a doctor's office. I just come in from international travel. I was jet lagged. I was excited, but I was still skeptical. And I got in and I laid down and I was in there for about 35 minutes. And I remember vividly to this day, this is over 15 years ago, I had a profound itch on my nose. And I remember lying there, my brain's kind of thinking through stuff like, wow, you got an itch on your nose. Who cares? And then my brain would go, and then you have an itch on your nose, man. It's like bad. Okay. Where are my arms? Do I have arms? It was, and I got up and I was like, I have no idea what you just did to me, but I feel so good. Now, this is about 10 years removed from my spinal surgery. I had 4 discs taken out of my spine, martial arts and wrestling for most of my life. And I remember doing a crescent kick over his head when I got up, because it was the first time I felt really loose. I felt like Gumby. I was like, this feels amazing. So here we are. Blake and I are in a room the next day. He says, Jim, can I do a few things to you? He said, yeah. So he does a few eye movement tests. And he says, you have TBI. And I said, who are you to tell me that? And he said, no, seriously, when you turn 50, you're not going to be able to tie your shoes. Your brain you've done a lot of damage to your brain. So we talk, he whiteboards the science. Fortunately for him, there was a logical path. There was a believable path to the science. And then the next day he said, Jim, I'm going to make a deal with you. I said, what's that? He said, I'm going to keep you healthy. You make me wealthy. We shook hands.
Oh, I
Shook
love
hands.
that.
And that was it. That was the beginning of the intersection of business with neuroscience and compassion to help others as you figure out along the way. We're figuring this out as we go. And I did not know this, Alan. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I'd have stepped in if I did. I didn't know the complexity of pioneering things, because the human brain, for all of its complexity and wisdom and amazement, demands a comparison to be able to think through something. So here we are back then. Hey, we have a biomimetic anxiolytic technology that crosses the blood-brain barrier and is catalyzed by cranial electrostatic stimulation. And you use amino acids, GABA A and GABA B, and you interrupt the HB axis. We're talking like aliens. Yeah. And you literally see people dissociate after a couple seconds, and it paralyzes your brain. When your brain is saying, I need a comparison, and there's nothing there, it's paralyzed. That's the challenge with pioneering technology that seems like magic or mythical or mysterious until it becomes common. And so along this journey, because I'm an impatient man like you, and I'm ambitious and I want things to happen yesterday, I'm starting to study other pioneering texts just so that I have a point of reference to protect my own sanity. And I learned that in 1946, the microwave was invented by a Raytheon physicist. 40-year arc to become a household item. Then I study Walt Disney, love his story. Near bankruptcy almost 7 times.
I tell his story to my kids all the time.
Stolen from, robbed, 40-year arc. He passed 5 years before Walt Disney World here opened in Orlando. So there's a 40-year arc to this. And so that's what I'm saying. You learn as you go, because there is no roadmap. I can't look at, with McDonald's and Burger King, the law of proximity, and then Wendy's, you can learn and be a fast follower. But when there's no path in front of you, there is no fast follow. So you learn as you go. So the combination of his brilliance, his neuroscience, his ability to figure it out, and our ability to build has been just an incredible, incredible relationship. I love Blake. He was so fascinating. I speak to him in the past tense, even though he's probably up there in the ethers looking down at us. But he passed away 4 years ago next month. And here's the coolest thing about Blake, beyond just the genius. He never said no to me. So if I said, Blake, taking this methodology that we can take anybody's brain to 4 hertz, and we can do surgical procedures, and we're going to work with the military, remember stage 4 cancer. Can we take their brain to 41 hertz? Yes. Can we take it to 18.4 hertz? Yes.
I'm trying to think. So 10 years ago, it would have been a very, very rudimentary, I mean, the phones weren't as fast as they are today.
We didn't have an app.
That's what I was gonna so walk me through what was the early model?
The early model is hilarious.
I always love these. I always love the early models.
It was hilarious. I remember the first sale, November 5th, 2009, doctor's office in Chicago. I show up in a suit, going to train the doc and his team. We opened the box that was shipped to us, and I open it up and I look in there and I'm like, what the hell are we selling? They paid $6,000 for this? It was like a clear tackle box with things that looked like they were put together in Radio Shack and built in 1970s Berlin.
Oh my
It
God.
was insane. There was 4 components. It was expensive. It was a medical device. Step by step procedure. But here's what was amazing. The outcome was so powerful, it didn't matter the 4 steps you had to take. So we began our journey commercially in the medical field doing surgical procedures.
Okay.
So replacing anesthesia. So literally, surgery, you're scared, it's a cold room, you're getting cut open, it's pretty barbaric. We're not suppressing your central nervous system with a benzodiazepine. We're putting headphones on you and an eye mask, and we're suspending your brainwave at 4 hertz where you're still available if you need to be, but you're in a place where you don't care. That's how this started. So if someone listening says, this is hokey, okay, we've done 2,300,000 surgical procedures, 10 to 15,000 today, in a cold room with a surgeon cutting you open, listening to our physics, wearing an eye mask.
I will actually attest to that. I was talking to a dentist friend of mine in Dallas, and because I am an evangelist of this, I was talking about this, and he heard me in a mastermind group, and he turned around and he goes, I use it. I actually use it for patients who can't take anesthesia when I'm doing surgical implants in my office. It's like, wait a minute, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that's how real it is. So we start, the science is incredible. And we could do 3 hours of the podcast of the science. And people would like, a third of it, and 2/3 they wouldn't understand. But the science is incredible. But then it's really the form factor and training and habit and building and using. So early on, as we're going and we're training all these doctors and building our medical advisory board, we're starting to see things that seem mythical and magical. And, I tell people, it's like, I didn't need to go through the FDA. I didn't need to go through Health Canada. I didn't need to have 52 medical advisors and patents and all this research. All you have to do is go to a hospital or a surgery and see the barbarism of a surgical procedure and know that the person is listening to your physics. That's it. I don't really know what we're doing here, but what? So
that seems legit.
It's legit. So before we would do recordings. Hey, state your name. How you feel today? I'm really nervous. Their face is red. Their neck is red. Their lips are dry. Their eyes are darting. After the surgery, they look completely chill. And they're like, I knew you were operating on me. Couldn't find a place to care. You're holding the video and you're like, what? So that's how this all started. So in 2016, Dr. Holloway strengthened the neuroacoustic software, the physics platform, underneath the music. So we have NuCalm 2.0. In 2020, we strengthened it again to NuCalm 3.0. So one of the cool things about where we're at today in contemporary society and in neuroscience, we've learned more in the last 10 years in neuroscience than we had collectively in the previous 1,000. The timing is good for us. And our organization has always been humble, high achievers, intellectually curious, and always innovating. We're always figuring stuff out. And sometimes we go back to the ancient past to learn what we should have already known. Whereas like the tambour instrument, singing bowls, the tube and throat singers, the vibrational pattern of those instruments actually helps with the synchronization of the physics and the pattern to the brain.
I love sound healing. I love sound baths.
So we learn these things, and then we take a 3D holophonic microphone, we record them, and then we put it subliminally into the physics platform underneath the music. So the complexity of the music is amazing, and there's all multi-layers, but underneath it, we have tube and throat singers, we've got singing bowls, we've got things that historically have shown to have a resonance, a vibration pattern that helps with state control. So the form factor changed dramatically November 15th of 2021.
Okay.
It was in 2016 that I challenged Blake. I said, Blake, We need to get away from the FDA. We need to get away from a $6,000 device. We need to get away from the complicated 4 components. We need to get away from all of this. And we were doing well. We were serving the Department of Defense, Navy SEAL, Special Forces, Air Force Special Operations Command. We were serving the Department of Justice, the FBI, SWAT, the FBI Hostage Rescue Team. We were serving BORTAC and BORSTAR and the Border Control. We were serving 78 professional sports teams, pilots, thousands of doctors, business people, celebrities. We had a good business. It wasn't good enough. When you can help that many people and you start seeing just how powerful this is, you're like, wait a second. We're living in the second great age of anxiety before COVID. The first great age of anxiety was post-World War I, when your brain, which demands familiarity and security in an anchor, doesn't feel familiar and secure in an anchor. We create anxiety, right? Psychic pain.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what, and I don't think most people understand that. So that your brain is always looking for patterns. It's always looking, and you kind of alluded to it earlier. It's looking for, it's like a filing cabinet. Like, what can I immediately, without even responding to anything, because it's subconscious, it's automatically going into the filing cabinet to reference it to something else, which is how I identify it.
Yes. Remember, central nervous system, number one role, self-preservation.
Keep you safe. Correct.
Okay. So for your listeners, think about the last time you went somewhere new and think about how exhausted you were that night. Now, theoretically, you shouldn't be more exhausted. It's a place on earth. It's a location. There's buildings, there's people, whatever. But you're exhausted because you've activated your central nervous system's fight or flight survival mechanism, and it needs to find an anchor in familiarity. If you travel to a foreign country where you don't look like the population, you never feel at home because your central nervous system can't find a familiar anchor. It doesn't exist here. So your central nervous system, once it sees familiarity, I'll give you another example. So say you live in New York City and you're going to a party and you're invited to the party by a friend, but you're probably not going to know anybody there. You're trying to convince yourself that you should still go to the party while you're walking to the party because you're like, I don't know anybody. It's going to be weird. You get to the party and it's even more weird because you truly don't know anybody. And so you're going through the party and you're like, and you're kind of maybe even a little agitated, a little impatient, distracted. And then on the corner of your eye, you see one of your colleagues. You don't even have to like this person. But as soon as you see a familiar face,
Run.
You take a breath. Your body says, a familiar anchor. I can now stay at this party.
I've been in that situation. Yeah, I think we've all been in those situations.
Yeah. So that is the energy that our brain's constantly doing. So what happened, Alan, in COVID is it completely obliterated all of our familiarity. So we today, a few years removed from COVID, are still existentially, central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, exhausted because we've had to relearn. Now, our brain is really fast to act and find patterns and familiarity, but think about our life today, and it's still not anchored to what it was in 2018 and 19 before COVID. So it's when we think highest stress levels, highest anxiety, highest sleep problems, there's truth to that. And then there's been an accelerated demise of our ability to be at peace because of COVID. And I don't blame media. Media has to make money. We have to make money to stay alive as a business. So the media experts learned a long time ago, I can elicit a fear response in a nanosecond. I mean, literally, a nanosecond. But I can't really elicit an endorphin feel-good response. I got to tell a long story. So you can't turn on the news and see anything positive because they need viewership. You need to stick. Then another example is the excitatory neurotransmitters and neurotoxins that are our food supply and glutamates and addictive pieces. Years ago, food companies started hiring neuroscientists to modulate the food supply to create addiction. So we're not eating food. We all have leaky gut. People are like, what's leaky gut? Leaky gut is you're 48 years old and then all of a sudden you're allergic to avocados. How'd that happen? Well, an avocado was in your gut and perforated your stomach line and got in your small intestine. Your small intestine said, hey, we have an enemy here. Create antibodies. Now, every time you eat an avocado, you blow up like Santa Claus. That's called leaky gut. And that happened because all the preservatives you've been eating have been lining your microbiome and changing your microbiome. And your stress responses created cortisol sitting in your belly. It's a mess. So there's a lot of reasons for us to be concerned. And I don't say this lightly, but the human race appears to be in a race to erase the human race.
Yes, I definitely see that.
And so,
And I think it goes back to the actual word, dis-ease. I mean, for whether that be functionally what you're talking about with leaky gut, the way that we look at stress or brain, it's all dis-ease.
yes, we're out of ease. So let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about NuCalm.
Whoo! I was going to say, so now the early advice, because I've seen it, it's like a big thing. Like, and it's got like this gel stuff. It was
We had
it was a thing.
tablets, we had transdermal creams, we had stimulation devices.
It reminded me of like the new, like those cranial things that you see today for like TMS.
Yes. Yes. So we had everything, and the form factor changed. Remember, Blake's brilliant. He never says no, but he has Asperger's. So you never know when you're getting it, and you never know how you're getting it. It just shows up. Okay. So November 15, 2021 is a seminal moment in our journey because we, for the first time in history, take a neuroscience product from a $6,000 medical device to a mobile app. So it's a profound kind of, I think, enduring legacy for us as we evolve. I don't expect the human population to care, and they see us as an app, but we're not an app company.
So which is like exactly what, well, this is just an app. And I'm like, no, this isn't. Yeah. So anyway,
this is a lifestyle. This is a change. This is a tool that helps you do things that you have no idea. So that is a challenge for us marketing wise. The consumer thinks we're an app. We're a neuroscience company. We've always been a neuroscience company. We still are a neuroscience company. We chose to deliver our neuroscience through an app to make it easy for humans to make it a habit. So we kind of lose because we're doing the right thing.
Right.
You know, the beauty of it is the product simply works. There's no placebo. There's no, hey, I don't feel well today. I wonder if this will work. It's physics and it's math. It doesn't get more finite than that. In 8 minutes on rescue, you're at 4 hertz. It's not up for debate. We know where you're at. So we have an app. We went from 1 product to 6 in the last couple of years. So we went from $6,000 medical device with 1 product called Rescue to a mobile app for those 50 cents a day, and we went from 1 product to 6. So it's been a really fascinating journey. And this is probably even the biggest mind bender. Our product efficacy has gotten better. Now, people, their heads pop. They're like, how can that be? Well, remember, it used to be a multi-component big system, but the mechanism of action for NuCalm was always the physics using your ears as a carrier. So the more we could strengthen that, the more we could back off the other pieces of the tech. So that's how we did that. So that's where we're at. So today, as a human being, you wake up tomorrow and you're like, you know what? I don't think I want to participate in today's world. I'd like to go back to sleep. Well, you can now. So you get back in bed, you do a 20-minute power nap, a 20-minute rescue, it doesn't matter what. And according to our research at Harvard and NASA, in 2011, 20 minutes of rescue or power nap is equivalent to 2 hours of restorative sleep.
And I remember when I think a friend of mine told me, Chuck told me that. And I'm like, that's BS. Like, there's no way. Yeah.
So let me explain to you how.
Yeah.
Dr. Chung Kang Pang, the world's leading statistical biophysicist, which is an occupation I didn't know you could pursue, and I'm still not sure what it means.
Where do you get that degree?
So he's a professor at Harvard, and he's the world's leading expert on heart rate variability. And as an academician, he has like 65,000 medical citations. That's more than universities. I mean, he's a super freak. So he calls me up, and this is late 2011. He said, Jim, did you know that 20 minutes of your product is equivalent to 2 hours of restorative sleep? I said, no, CK, I didn't. In fact, I'm not even sure what you mean. He said, well, in the sleep architecture, there's a certain phase of sleep, right, commensurate with REM. Your brain's at a certain frequency, 4 hertz, 5 hertz, 6 hertz, where we call it the healing zone. And so in sleep after puberty, we kind of glide through it in our 90-minute sleep cycles too quickly. We're not getting enough of it. Your product is taking my brainwave to that spot, and you're holding me there. So I'm getting a high concentration of the most restorative aspect of the sleep architecture. That's where the 20 minutes, 2 hours equates to. So it's a simple recipe. It's a mind bender. but you've lived it. I've lived it. Everybody's lived it. This doesn't replace sleep, but it augments the sleep debt that we create in our lifetime and our habits. You said, hey, I was stayed up late working with my wife to do a website. And so you put your sleep at risk, but the next day, the human body can't make up that sleep debt, but you can. You get back in bed 20 minutes. And when you get up, how you feel? You're like, wow, I'm restored and ready to go.
So is it normal? Normal. I mean, this entire show is about not normal. To see things like so when I use Rescue 12, I wear a mask with my headphones. I have a journey room that I created in my house because I work in psychedelics. I'm in the space, so I have a room that is completely pitch black, and I go in there in the morning and I put on my eye mask and my headphones, and I see things. Like I see things that like almost like a psychedelic experience, except that I'm not on any psychedelics. Is that normal? I mean, have you heard other people say that, or am I just special?
The time. So what are we
Crazy.
doing? Yeah, what are we doing? The amygdala, which is the reptile part of our brain, dominates a lot of our behavioral pattern. And we'll be familiar with it because I'm going to tell you what it dominates. It manages fear, stress, anxiety, worry, irritability, expectation, overwhelm. That's a lot of my day, Mr. Poole. Yes, it is. It's a really powerful piece of our physiology. And the neural circuitry of that aspect of our brain is ancient. Some say it's 40 million years. Someone told me the other day, I read it's 300 million. I said, well, I wasn't around 300 million years ago, so I can't really tell you if that was a genesis of the circuitry of that part of our brain. But so we're constantly in this state of worry. Now, pay attention the next time you're worrying, and you'll notice when you've resolved that worry, your brain, there's other things to worry about. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped piece in our midbrain, which we call the reptile brain, which doesn't sound conscious because it's not. It loves to work, which is bad for us. It's a workaholic. So it loves to find things to worry about.
Yeah.
And that's its fuel, right? That's the genesis of phobias. Phobia is a consistent thought pattern that's irrational, but it elicits a physiological response, and you can't be talked out of it. So that's what's happening most of the time. If we can stop that chaos and oxygenate our prefrontal and frontal cortex, we can access our subconscious. And in our subconscious, voila, that's what you want to see or feel. So there's some things, we've done a lot of recovery lounges, and we've NuCalm's probably 200,000 to 300,000 people around the world in 15 years at all these big meetings. And sometimes we call the NuCalm tears. So the person, they've never tried NuCalm. They've never had their stress response just kind of stopped and their body relax and have access to their subconscious within 8 minutes. And they're in that journey and they're visiting with deceased relatives, or people are meeting Jesus, or they're, on the backs of Aborigines in Australia. It's your subconscious. So they'll come out of that and they'll be like, and I'm like, oh yeah, your eye mask is wet. NuCalm tears? And I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it happens. We all have something.
I just experienced this with a friend. I was telling everybody about this, and it healed some serious deep wounds.
Yeah. So all it's doing, and that gives me goosebumps. I love to hear that. So all it's doing at the rudimentary level is it's slowing down your monkey mind, slowing down the narrative we tell ourselves to protect ourselves. When we are coming out of trauma or history of things that we don't want to think about, your brain's really good at stacking scar tissue and repressing and suppressing and just shove that shit down, man.
And I feel like as men, that's what we're told. Shove that shit down and let's move on.
What the? There's no crying in baseball, right? So your brain doesn't have a hypothesis. Your brain doesn't have that thought pattern like, oh yeah, Alan doesn't want to think about that right now, Jeff. It doesn't work that way. Once you enter that subconscious space and your defense mechanisms are liberated, this is similar parallel to psychedelic journeys. Once you get rid of the social mores and the norms and the structure and the locus of control, voila, this is my character, this is my soul, this is my ambition, this is who I am. So we are free to get there. I did a podcast with Joe Mercola, who I really like, and he's a great doctor. And I think some people would be surprised just how kind of conscious his thought patterns are. He said, Jim, what I love about rescue is that within a few minutes, I'm knocking at the door of my subconscious and voila, I'm in. There's no effort. I don't have to meditate. I don't have to downregulate my monkey mind. I don't do any of that. I just put rescue on with headphones and I'm there.
I mean, that's exactly what it is. Because for those of the listeners, I invite you, and we'll put a link after the show to download NuCalm to give it a try. But he's exactly right. Like, you're knocking on the door and it just opens, like you're there. That's why I was asking about the visionary, because I always see like something. It's a very visual experience.
Some people express that way. Sometimes it surprises you because, you know, we judge books by their cover. I remember I was in New York, I think, and we were NuCalming, and a doctor got out. He was really just tightly wound doctor. And he got out and he says, am I supposed to be seeing purple? And my jaw dropped because that's the highest color, the highest chakra. And I was like, this dude's reaching awesome conscious levels, first NuCalm experience, and he definitely don't look like he's that type of guy. So it's an amazing piece now, and you can share with the audience as well. It's not consistent. You don't say, hey, you know, I'm going to dial into rescue and I'm going to
purple today. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. So, that's fascinating. So let me just share with your audience how you do this. Rescue is an immersive experience. Why? Because we're trying to take your brain to a state just above deep sleep. You're levitating like David Copperfield, but we're levitating your brainwave just above deep sleep. And it's a certain frequency, 4 hertz and 5 hertz, etc. So 4 hertz or 5 hertz, to get there, you can't be stimulated by light. We have a lot of informational packets that come in through our visual cortex, okay? So we block out light with an eye mask. The physics and the delivery mechanism of what we do, we use 2 forms of delivery, isochronic waveform and binaural signal processing. Now, binaural beat has become kind of faddish, and people are like, yeah, binaural beat.
And I wanted to talk about that. So, yeah.
So binaural beat.
So it's a binaural beat.
Yes, exactly. So, and you're right. We use binaural beat as a delivery mechanism. So binaural beat, and this is fascinating, in 1839 was discovered by a German scientist. What it does is it uses the brain's natural compensatory mechanism. The brain is always figuring stuff out,
looking for patterns,
and so it figures it out. So if you wanted to present your brain with 12 hertz, for simplicity's sake, you'd present 500 hertz in your left ear, 512 hertz in your right ear. And then when it gets to the signaling of the brain says, wait a second, these frequencies are dissonant. It subtracts the difference. Not wild. That's fascinating. You're like, wow, the brain is so cool. Okay. That's binaural beat. So, Jim, how's NuCalm different from a 99-cent, binaural beat app
or a free Spotify?
Yeah. I said, well, let's first apply logic. NuCalm is a $6,000 a class 3 medical device. So you think maybe it's different than a 99-cent app? Maybe.
Might be.
Secondly, let's discover what binaural beat is. It's a delivery mechanism. It is not the message, it's the delivery. So if I were to order a pizza pie and the pizza delivery boy shows up, I don't eat the pizza delivery boy. I eat the pizza. So it's the pizza that makes the difference. Now, binaural beat's been around for a long time, 1839. And there's thousands, if not millions, of binaural beat stuff. They're all built on a simple frequency. Focus, 18.4 hertz. Stays at 18.4 hertz. Relaxation, 12 hertz. Creativity, 7.83 hertz. And you'll notice that the first time that you listen to one of those, it's amazing. I mean, literally like, oh, this is amazing. It's directing my brain. Second time you listen to it, it's really good. Third time you listen to it, it's good. Fourth time you listen to it, nothing happening. Because your reticular activating system, the brain's filtration system, has figured out the pattern.
Pick the pattern up.
Hey, you know what? I fell for this 3 times, but 4 times on a charm, beat it. Blake's brilliance was not in, hey, this is cool, binaural beat, let me build something. Blake's brilliance was, if I don't build something that tricks the reticular activating system, this won't work.
So it's like an oscillating.
It's a constant perpetual motion.
Yeah.
Well, we have the only patent in the world for a method used to elicit a state change in the human brain. Now, this is a huge deal. And you don't get awarded patents without showcasing irrefutable evidence that prior art has never existed. It's never been done before. And all your claims, there's 29 claims, they're all irrefutable quantified evidence. That's why it takes us 5 years to do that patent. So Blake figured out, I'm going to present you with a pattern. The pattern is going to be 1 to 2 to 3 gigabytes of information in software. I'm going to use binaural beat, but I'm also going to use isochronic waveform, which is another way to present your brain with a pattern. So I'm going to use both methods. And once you put headphones on, your ears don't have an escape. Your brain is amazingly gifted and has a locus of control. Your brain does not want to be invaded by anything, a supplement, a transdermal, a liposomal, a surgery. It's a perfectly architected ecosystem. Just let it be. Don't touch me with anything. So the beauty of this invention is when you put headphones on, what we're doing is inaudible to the human ear. So your brain can't resist what it doesn't even know is happening. So you hear music in the first few minutes. So you have an eye mask, a headphone, you lay down. It sounds like an amazing room. I've looked at NuCalm there. You lay down, and the first couple minutes, nothing happens. Of course, nothing happens. Remember, your brain has a locus of control. It is a protection mechanism. You can't just say, hey, brain, we're going to go to theta. Like an elevator.
They're knocking on the door.
Yeah. No, doesn't work that way. So we have the first 8 minutes is what we call the departure lounge. We're literally seeking permission from your central nervous system to trust where we're going to take you safe. And we do this every time because the physics is identical. So 8 minutes, we take you down, we take you up, we take you down, we take you up, we take you down, we take you up. And then we're like, okay, we think you're ready. And we take you down to 4 hertz. And in that state, that transition, your body kind of falls into your bed. I mean, heavy. You're like, wow, 9.8 meters per second squared, gravity, pulling me into my bed. Your respiration slows down and your mind begins to drift off in that lucid dream state where you're seeing things, people hear things. I will tell you that 2 instances, listening to a Rescue 50 track, I had an angelic, crazy bright light with angelic folks lifting me, levitating, and this euphoria that was indescribable, profound, and fleeting. Didn't last long. And I remember sharing that with one of my monk friends. He's like, I had the same experience. Like, I don't know what was going on here, but it was so amazing. Twice. So, and I can't get it back. It hasn't happened in years since. So the rescue experience is just like that. The beauty of NuCalm, as you know, is you don't do anything. Our neuroscience does all the work. You just give us time in a safe place, headphones and an eye mask, and we take you on this journey. And earlier, you kind of alluded to the monk piece. And what's fascinating is that most of the human population can't meditate. They can't downregulate that reptile part of our brain. It's too strong. They get frustrated trying to meditate. And furthermore, they don't understand what they're supposed to do in meditation. So you get into the circular loop of shame. You don't really understand what's going on. You don't want to talk about it because you think you're going to sound like an idiot. And it's just bizarre. The whole experience is bizarre because it's not tangible. And the brain is incapable of figuring out intangible.
Yeah. When I talk about meditation with people, because I was the exact same way when I started. They're like, this sucks. Like how I'm like 2 minutes. Like this is, 2 minutes. I think I'm going to go for 30. Like, nope, not happening.
Nope. So what we do know is that transcendental meditation and good meditators, mediocre meditators can downregulate their brainwave function into alpha. And it's a nice spot. You're relaxed. Your breath work's doing well. Your mind's in a nice spot. Some monks can take their brainwave with predictability to theta. That's that lucid dream state. No one else really can do that. But physics can. So using our physics and our methodology, you put headphones on, and at minute 8, everybody on this earth is at 4 hertz. So we are all given the gift of being able to meditate like a monk without having to spell meditation, without having to practice meditation, but we get the benefit of having been a monk meditator for that 30 minutes. And what happens in that 30 minutes that's so important for our healing? First and foremost, in that state, as I mentioned earlier, your cells clean their toxins, and your mitochondria are stored. So think about this. Say, for example, you cook a beautiful dinner tonight, and you choose not to clean up the kitchen. Okay. You come down for breakfast, and you're like, oh, the kitchen is gross. But you choose not to clean your kitchen again. Now it's the second day. And you choose not the third day. Now you've gone a week, so 7 days. Your kitchen is reeks. How about a month? Would you like to not clean your kitchen for a month? This is what happens when we don't get good sleep and we don't give our cell structure the opportunity it needs to clean the toxins. Okay? So in that state of rescue, that deep meditative state, lucid dream state, seeing things, hearing things, whatever, your body on a cellular level is getting all the restoration it needs. And then on the physiological level, when we synchronize your brain, your heart, and your lungs, and have your diaphragmatic breathing, you're breathing in about 1 breath every 10 seconds. And that breath pushes oxygen-rich red blood from your toes to your prefrontal cortex. And so when we oxygenate key areas of our brain, we're allowed access to who we want to be. And we get to liberate the amygdala and this monkey mind and this chaos and this stress. And what I like to say is listen, the amygdala is really powerful. And for those who are traumatized, it has taken on so much more power. It's become so powerful in your brain physiology. You don't even understand it, but there's almost no way for you to override it. You're not going to. And you're going to just be defeated because you don't really even understand what's happening. The more you can oxygenate the prefrontal cortex, you're taking the resources from the amygdala. So over time, you're literally taking the amygdala and saying, hey, I don't need you. I'm not in danger every day. Why don't you go sit at the kids' table? The adults are talking. So over time, we are systematically allowing the body the healing element of oxygen-rich red blood. We're opening up new neuronal coherence and pathways to our hippocampus and our prefrontal cortex and our forehead, and we're allowing the body this natural evolution of healing. And this you're doing also in the psychedelic journey. It's less predictable, but there's a lot of activity that happens through this whole kind of removal of the amygdala, the reptile brain, and all that chaos associated. So the rescue experience is an experience we'd recommend for every human being on Earth every day for the rest of your life. I was just speaking to a sheikh, and he said, this sounds like a technology that I probably am going to have to adopt for the rest of my life. And I said, it is. Because every day stress shows up. Stress doesn't take a holiday. And it's the only patented solution in the world that's non-drug for stress. So rescue is the daily recipe. And then in November of 2021, we launched Deep Sleep.
I was hoping we were going to go here. So
Deep Sleep. Sleep is 0.5 hertz. With a speaker in your bedroom, no headphone, no eye mask. You press start on a deep sleep track, and we put you to sleep. I mean, it's amazing. Theoretically, it seems really easy, but it took us 9 years to invent deep sleep because we didn't have the delivery mechanism of binaural beat, which is headphone. There's no escape route. So it's very, very complicated. But here's the challenge. Onset of sleep is a challenge for most people. Most of us are deficient in GABA. We live a different lifestyle than we did 10, 20 years ago. We have too much stimulation happening all the time. We don't prepare for bed like we used to. Think about like Little House on the Prairie, right? They aren't watching TV. They weren't being stimulated. They weren't watching horror shows or binge watching violent TV shows.
Instagram, short reels, Facebook,
None of that. They were preparing for sleep. As the sun went down, your brain, melatonin, serotonin, GABA. So we're all deficient in GABA, which interrupts the HPA axis and allows you to be like, my monkey mind is slowing down. I'm actually going to fall asleep. So what we did is we took 50 minutes of patented physics to naturally guide your brain and my brain to 0.5 hertz. We put you to sleep. And then the tracks are 8 hours or 10 hours long. There's 7 hours and 10 minutes of sleep filler that fills in the sleep gaps. That's deep sleep. And interestingly enough, humans, especially American consumers, have become learned helpless, easy, always want a silver bullet, don't really want to do anything, don't even want to read anymore, don't want to be told what to do, but want to be directed. I mean, it's pure chaos out there.
Yeah.
So we launched Deep Sleep, and I love looking at data. I love looking at the macro data. And within a month, Deep Sleep's #1 track in the world. I'm like, son of a gun. People start getting away from rescue, which is a key therapy for all longevity and a good life and feeling good and thinking good. No, they gravitate to Deep Sleep. So we're like, hold the phone. We're going to educate these folks. The sleep protocol is rescue during the day, take care of your stress, deep sleep at night, cherry on top. Combination is incredible. So you could see all this movement. And then we went on a big education campaign and just kind of brought it back to some semblance. But today, we're about 1,300,000 to 1,500,000 minutes of NuCalm around the world in a day. And of the tracks, there's like 154 hours of patented neuroacoustic software on the app. And of all the tracks, 7 of the top 10 tracks today globally are deep sleep. So you can see what, first of all, this is my biggest problem, but I don't understand the problem. If I did, I'd probably be doing rescue because stress is really the catalyst to why I'm not sleeping. So I don't understand the cause and effect. So I'm going to just go with deep sleep. So what did we do? Last year, we looked at all the data and said, okay, we're seeing a behavioral pattern here that's unfortunate. But who are we to impose our will on human habits? We're not. I can't come to your house, Alan, and say, Alan, you haven't done rescue in a couple days. So
have you done it? I need to see it. Yeah, right.
Go to your journey room, get your eye mask, get your headphone. I can't do that. But I can strengthen deep sleep with the expectation that you don't take care of yourself. Because I do know that with ease and a speaker in your bedroom, you're going to press start. So what do? We said, you know what? In the sleep architecture, falling asleep is a challenge for a lot of people. But getting up after like 40 years old, we get up every day. After 40 years old, all of us get up. Why? Because the biorhythm of the liver, the biological clock of your liver, is between 2 and 3 at night. And when it wakes up, it creates adrenaline to enzymatically break down the toxins in your liver. So here's an interesting fact that none of us really know. Every night in your zip code, everybody over 40 is awake between 2 and 3.
You got to go pee.
Every single one of us. We think we're alone. It's hilarious. I would challenge any listener, hey, call one of your friends at 2:37 tomorrow.
My God, that's so funny.
They're going to answer the phone. Why? Because they're going to pee. So we all get up to pee. The challenge now is when we get up to pee, the amygdala wakes up. Our anxiety wakes up. Our fear wakes up. Worry wakes up. And once that starts, then cortisol starts, which is the stress hormone. And then we get into this pattern where we're not going back to sleep. That's a big problem. So we look at this problem on a macro level and say, what can we do? How can we impact this? So understanding that humans are all the same, we all have a liver, we all have a brain, we all have a sleep architecture. Guess what we did? We said, why don't we take the first 50 minutes of physics and at hour 4, bring back the hammer. So when you go to bed at 10, you wake up at 2, or you go to bed at 11, you wake up at 3. Guess what? We're coming back. So we launched Deepest Sleep last month to tremendous fanfare. And here's what's cool, Alan. Sometimes you have a really cool opportunity as a leader of a neuroscience company. You will never know what we did. You'll never know the complexity. You'll never know the challenges. You'll never know the hurdles. You don't need to. But you will feel a dramatic shift. And you'll feel the dramatic impact of the deepest, most restorative sleep that you've gotten since before you went through puberty. That is irrefutable. That is so exciting. When we launched it, I was like, I'm so excited here because nobody knows what we do. And I don't care if they ever figure it out. And they won't. But they're going to feel it. And so Deepest Sleep said, beginning of the night and then the middle of the night, we are guiding you to sleep. That is Deepest Sleep.
We were talking about this before the show. So I have my Oura ring and I track all my data. It's bananas. Since I started using it a week ago, I think we rolled it out a week ago. And I started tracking my data, and I have a circle of guys that we all track circle data together within Oura, and every one of us are like, this is crazy how this works. I didn't know how.
So tell me, what are you seeing specifically?
So even though I am a better sleeper. So it was funny in the beginning. You were talking about apnea. I had surgery of my nose. I had I had a problem with, like, one of my nostrils was actually closed. Like, they had to surgically open it and deviated septum. So that helped. But my REM and my deep were never great. Like, just they were never great. Almost all the way to the end of full deep and full REM. Like, maybe 1%, and that's only if a dog, like I have a small Italian Greyhound that sleeps in our bed. If he has to get up to go to the bathroom, otherwise, blue all the way across. Like, I don't even wake up anymore. And then last night he slept all night. I never even woke up, and it was blue all the way across. It was crazy.
Welcome to the world of physics.
Yes.
Welcome to the world of innovation, understanding your audience, which is humanity. So since we started, I'd say half of the nights, 50%, I'm not getting up to use the bathroom. I started getting up to use the bathroom literally on my 30th birthday. I turned 30 that night. In my birthday party, I got up to pee. It's the first time ever, and it hasn't stopped. And I drink too much water before bed, so most of the time I'm up at least twice, and sometimes 3 times. And I will wake up at first light or 5:30, whatever. And I'm like, wow, I didn't get up to go to pee. About 10 days ago, my cranial psychotherapist was working on me. She's been working on me for about 8 years. She's got a really intense connection to my body, my tissue, my visceral, my fascia, everything. And she's touching my chest. She's like, wow, your body feels really relaxed. Your brain's lit up like a space station, but your body is like... And I said, I owe that to deepest sleep. She said, how so? I said, I'm sleeping so deep that even when I wake up in the morning, it takes me a little, time, inertia to get to functioning.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is that I feel so physically relaxed and grounded and clear despite the chaos of everyday, leadership and business and family. And that is all derived from incredible sleep. And it's so amazing to, with a simple tool like a mobile app and a headphone, to be able to direct and guide the outcome I want when I want it, right? I know when I want to do power nap. Well, last week I did a presentation in Indonesia. It was 9 o'clock at night. It was a long day. At 7 o'clock, I did a 20-minute power nap. Why? Because it gives you that extra boost of energy. When I got on, I was like, let's go. It's 9 o'clock at night, but I was ready. Other days, I do the rescue 20 because I pushed too hard on a generalized basis. So NuCalm foundationally started with rescue. And then as we strengthen the methodology, strengthen the physics, strengthen the math, we started saying, wait a second, if we can take everybody here, then we can take you here, 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 here. So the frequency range, deep sleep and deepest sleep plus, we're running out of superlatives because we just keep innovating. That is 0.5 hertz. It's the slowest waveform, and it's delta. Rescue and power nap are on the app, and that takes you to 4 hertz to 7 hertz, and that's theta, the healing zone. And it's immersive. Eye mask, headphones, lie down, 20, 30 minutes, feel amazing. Flow state doesn't go as deep in the healing. It intersects at the cross between alpha and theta at the Schumann resonance and the Earth's magnetic rotation at 7.83 hertz. It opens up your subconscious to the creative self without the garbage in your amygdala. Focus is 18.4 hertz. At that specific frequency, your brain has no space for distraction. You are intentional in your thinking, and you just have a headphone on. So focus and ignite are action-oriented. Headphone, in-ear buds, you can do anything you want. And then ignite activates your gross motor cortex, your musculature, your mental acuity. You're feeling like you're unstoppable. And the headphone on, pre-workout, during a workout, you'll notice your strength and your endurance is significantly improved because your mental clarity is like, listen, lactic acid ain't bothering me. I used to do the Peloton all the time. And before Ignite, within 5 minutes, if I went hard the day before, my quads are burning and my brain's like, what are you doing this for? You got chicken legs anyway. Get your ass hurts, the seat's tight. Get off this thing. You put Ignite on, and my wife will come and say, you're going to die on that thing. I'm like,
I'm unstoppable.
I'm unstoppable.
I love unstoppable, by the way.
We have taken all of our science that seems like magic. Trust us, it's not. We've taken our physics and our mathematics. We've put into a mobile app to make it easy for you And the biggest game for us is how do we make this accessible, affordable, and easy so that we can take care of 8.4 billion people, though in truth, 7 billion people have a mobile device. So we can take care of 7 billion people. We can give you the tools that can keep you away from caffeine and alcohol and anti-anxieties and antidepressants and sleeping pills because they don't really work. They all have side effects and negative consequences. And the whole outcome, the why you take them, is to change your brainwave state. So why don't you use physics and a headphone instead? And voila, game over. Yes, we did that.
You did that, and I can attest to that. And for that, I say thank you.
And for that, I say thank you for trusting us and for adopting this into your life and making you a better human being, because by that happening, the people around you are now better too. So that's kind of how we force multiply good things on this earth.
Yeah. And, we are entering into a partnership, which I'm extremely grateful for, because again, I don't have a lot of products that I use that I would recommend, again, to the evangelistic level that I have and that I do. So listeners,
we do. So let's announce that here.
Yeah.
Our company's 34 years old. We've done 2 collaborations in our company's history. We've collaborated with Tony Robbins and Jim Quick. They are both voiceovers on our product. You can find them both.
Well, they are. I absolutely I love them.
And we've never had a business partnership until now. So Neuma Health and NuCalm are partnering. It makes great synergy. It makes great sense. Hydration is really important. Hydration and facilitation of learning, growing, conscious journeys through whatever that journey is, ketamine, psilocybin, it doesn't matter. So there's that aspect of it. And then if you look at the continuum, you have the hydration element. Your brain hydration is uber important to anything that's going to stick, facilitate, and last. In fact, we tell people you should use electrolytes before you do NuCalm because of the electrical signaling and the positive charge. So we're really excited about this partnership. I think our users are going to love it, and this is going to be brilliant. So I'm super opportunity.
I'm ecstatic as well, because I know with the GABA, the inositol, and the magnesium that we have, I know a lot of people who take like sleep aids at night. You don't need those. So to combine the NuCalm app with having the GABA, the inositol, magnesium as part of your daily life, you're going to naturally sleep better anyway. But for listeners, again, I cannot even begin to tell you how deep is Sleep Plus, like how incredible that is. I actually, Jim, is so funny. I have it on my phone. I don't like it on the big speaker, and I put it under my pillow. Like I leave my phone running for 8 hours under my pillow, just charged.
Wow. All right. So guess what? You're only getting about 30% of the physics that way.
So I need to play to my speaker?
Put a speaker on, you may not get up till Sunday.
My Lord. All right. I'm going to try that tonight. And oh my God.
Yeah, because remember, the size of the files are 2 to 3 gigabytes.
I'm trying to be selfish here. I was trying to give it to myself.
And the output is just not the capacity of a phone speaker just can't do it. You're in for a ridiculous.
You are like blowing my mind now. So I'm going to do it tonight on my speaker.
You're in for it's demonstratively different.
I have a Sonos speaker, like literally, like right next to my next to our bed. I'm gonna plug it tonight.
Yes. So in our home, before our kids went to college, if you walk through our home upstairs, everybody had some version of Deep Sleep playing, whether it's the Rain, the Sonic Essence. It was amazing. And
I like Sonic Essence.
Before we leave, I'm just going to leave your audience with 2 quick stories. Number 1, music cannot change your mental state. Okay, so let's not be duped by things we don't understand. So it's an unconscious ignorance. We don't know. But I'm telling you now, the complexity of your brain, the reticular activating system of your brain, your pattern recognition, music cannot change your state. It can elevate your mood. You go to the gym, you have AC/DC on, the first couple songs, you're pumping on
feelings, yes.
But you'll notice that even that dissipates. Why? Because your brain starts figuring out, wait a second, Brian Johnson's voice sounds the same. Angus Young's riffs sound the same. This is starting to bore me. Okay? So it's really important that we understand music cannot change our state. So stop falling for all these false claims that say, hey, listen to this and it'll do that. No. Different noise patterns, white noise, pink noise, whatever. No. Have some integrity and have some honor and some humility of the complexity of your brain. It doesn't fall for these things. And if it does, it falls for it for minutes. That's it. So that's a big one. My last story is this. Sonic Essence. We launched it in November of 2021, and I've got great relationships with our music producer, and I love Dan Slane. He's amazing. We've been working together for 9 years, and you can tell every track we're launching is better than the previous tracks. I mean, we're cooking with gas right now on so many levels. So we launched Sonic Essence, and we called it White Noise. And I've never offended Dan or Blake until then. So he calls me up, he says, Jim, I'm really disappointed in you. And I was like, what? He's like, you named that track White Noise. And so it sounds like that. He said, do you think we would be doing some kind of technological garbage and top of the physics? Come on. I said, no. He said, you have no idea the meticulous design that went into that. I said, tell me.
Why are you calling it? Yeah.
We used a 3D holophonic microphone, which is the highest level of reproduction audio quality on Earth. We went out to Kauai and we did the ocean waves. We went to Big Sur at sunrise. We went to a vortex in Sedona. We had cicadas in Santa Barbara. We recorded leaves in the wind going through leaves. We took all of these environmental recordings and we did what's called sonic polarization. And we brought it to that. Sonic Essence is all natural. That's why we changed the name. I was like,
I didn't know any of that. That is my favorite
everything
one.
we do has a specificity and meticulous design. It takes us 14 to 26 months to create a new track because our engineers, our musicians need to build music on top of a matrix of mathematics and physics. The end game is for us to present a pattern to your brain. It's not to create entertainment and a nice listening experience. So the last thing we want is for our music composition to interrupt what we're trying to accomplish with your brain. So that is amazing, isn't it? And that was a great story. That was a great story because I was like,
that was an incredible way to.
He's like,
White Noise. Oh my God.
So there you go. So Sonic Essence is my wife's favorite. And
that's my favorite.
When I'm home, we listen to Sonic Essence. When I travel, Summer Rain's my favorite. I listen to Summer Rain on the road. And I'm on the road more than I'm at home. So I listen to Summer Rain most. And that is the most popular track in the world, like 2 times greater than Sonic Essence.
Okay.
Melodies. It's funny because you see all these macro trends. And this is global. And you can see who's doing what, when, where, and why. So it's fascinating. But thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jim, for everything, for the partnership, for creating this incredible app. Listeners, I will put into the notes where you can find NuCalm. I cannot tell you enough. And again, as an evangelist of this program and this product, it is absolutely been amazing. And I can't wait for you all to try it. Jim,
thanks for having me. And when you go to NuCalm.com, look up Neuma Health because partners, we take care of each other.
Perfect. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
This is Alan Wiederhold. This is Neuma.